the Toronto Maple Leafs made a trade. Both trades pretty minor, but creative in the sense that we saw a three-way deal. But starting off with the Leafs trade, so Denis Malgin, that experiment is over. Denis Malgin to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Dryden Hunt. So two very different type of players. Malgin, undersized, 5'9", kind of skill, kind of creating chances for himself, kind of possession-based, where you see Dryden Hunt, I think he's 6 foot flat, checker, kind of defensive player. So I think when you look at the Leafs and Kyle Dubas, and I think a lot of people will see this move and be like, okay, this is not a Dubas type move to trade the possession-based guy to get a checking guy that's kind of just doesn't have too many offensive numbers in the NHL. But Lucas, man, let's chat about it just quickly. Minor deal. Obviously, everyone's going to look at this being like, oh, you traded Mason Marchment for Denis Malgin, and now it's Dryden Hunt, who the Avalanche just claimed off waivers this year. The Avalanche claimed off waivers from the Rangers. But what do you think, man? Minor trade, but I guess trying to add a little bit of that edge, I guess, on that fourth line. Or depth.
I guess eventually too, you do got to bury the hatchet and not think of it as like the Marchment tied thing. It's just like similar to the Kadri deal, right? We can't always blame Kerfoot for it. So in this scenario, I think that, like you said, you brought up a really good point there. It seems un-Dubas like, right, to make a deal like this, like a more skilled, smaller guy for. I don't know. I think Dryden Hunt is we know really what his ceiling is as a bottom six guy, and he doesn't really bring much up from an offensive standpoint. But as much as Malgin, we look at this guy that has the higher ceiling. It's just wild when you watch him. You see these sparks of like, this guy could be something, but it never really shows on the scoreboard. And I saw this crazy stat from Michael Amato that Denis Malgin went 12 games without a point playing alongside Tavares and Marner during the streak. So if he's going pointless when Marner and Tavares are on fire, particularly Marner, but that line was humming and he's got nothing on the board for 12 games, I think, that was pretty much the telltale sign that it wasn't going to work. And that was really the only spot for him, right? They weren't really giving him
and it specifically killed his spot here when Yarncrow was coming back, and Yarncrow should be playing as we record tomorrow night. So that like just completely solidified it. Yeah, I mean, you bring in Dryden Hunt, and like, I hate to have this basic analysis here, but he's basically like an Aston Reese. Like, you're bringing in a guy, defensive guy. He might put up a couple goals every 10, 20 games. But outside of that, you're more so just bringing a guy that's probably just going to be a filler for shifts until the Stars are ready to go again. Be physical. We've seen him drop the gloves a couple times. Just an energy guy. That's what I would say about Dryden Hunt. Just energy guy, 27, kind of been a journeyman a little bit. But energy guy. So I think when the Leafs are fully healthy, and I actually saw someone tweet this out as well, is sorry that I can't give them a show because I forget who it was, but it was like, when both these teams are healthy, neither of these guys are in the lineup, right?
They don't make an impact. Both of them aren't expected to be impact players. So
when the Avs are healthy, I mean, Malgin will play right now because the Avs are not healthy. So there you go. Malgin will get his chance with the Avs, and Hunt might play some games with the Leafs. We'll see. I could see him on that fourth line, and it being maybe a fourth line of like an Aston Reese, Kampf, and Dryden Hunt. So I don't mind it. I mean, for me, like I said, it was just a disappointing, and it was a shitty scenario to begin with, because obviously I think if hindsight is big time here, but it's like Marchment would have been a great fit for the Leafs in terms of like third line, checker, put up some depth scoring, which the Leafs have had a problem with this year at times. So yeah, you know what? You can't look at it that way. I think Dryden Hunt's a fine addition on depth. He definitely contributes more in terms of possession, in terms of like, I would say cycle work than Simmons does consistently, and brings that edge a little bit. So it's like, if they have a certain matchup where they still want to match that edge, but also have more of a cycle game with that fourth line, Dryden Hunt's your guy. And then, of course, you still have Simmer if you want to guarantee dropping the gloves on the game. But, just quickly, I mean, again, I don't think that warrants too much more conversation, but you're fine with it as a Leafs perspective?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I mean, I think the Avalanche obviously have the higher upside to the trade, but as I think the Leafs gave him his opportunity, hasn't really worked out. So as a Leafs fan, from the Leafs point of view, I think it's cool to try Dryden Hunt in the bottom six, see what he can bring, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so just quickly, the three-way deal. So we'll just quickly discuss it here. So to me, it was confusing for a second just in terms of like fit, but I mean, it's whatever at this point. So I think Del Zotto went from the Panthers to the Red Wings in exchange for Giovanni Smith. And then it was basically a secondary part of the deal. So basically it ended up being a three-way deal. So then Michael Del Zotto went from the Panthers to the Red Wings, and then the Red Wings flipped him to the Ducks in exchange for Danny O'Regan, who's just been kind of a minor league player. So Giovanni Smith might be a depth piece for the Panthers when they need it. I know they've Barkov injury and stuff like that. Del Zotto, I mean, the Ducks brought another defenseman, so he might just be a depth piece. Especially, I mean, I would just look at it as also like, I'm sure the Ducks will trade a couple defensemen, whether it's Shattenkirk, Klingberg at the deadline. So, I mean, Del Zotto will just be a filler probably at that point as well.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. He'll come up. He'll be a contributing piece for them once they move some bodies out. And Del Zotto, obviously, 2019 Stanley Cup champ with the Blues, buddy. But
is there anything else to discuss on that deal? It's so minor. It's more minor than the Leafs and Avalanche deal, but it's just creative because it's a three-way deal.
Yeah, I think that's why it has the headlines, because it's a three-way. Del Zotto is just an interesting player because I always, playing the NHL games back in the day, he was always such a great piece to build your team around, as funny as it is, like with the potential that he had. Back then. And he was he had some solid seasons early on, but I think, like you said, it is a minor deal, and I don't think anyone's going to make out like a bandit on this one.
No, yeah. Giovanni Smith might be a little bit of a wild card for maybe getting time with the Panthers, like I said, through injuries. But outside of that, not too much to discuss.